It's always so great for us to come and do these talks, these speaking engagements, and really connect with everybody who's in the internal comms and employee engagement and HR space, because we don't get this opportunity too often. So thank you, big thank you to all of the From Day One team members here. Oh, there we go. So as I mentioned, my name is Josh. I'm the head of accounts and partnerships at LineZero, and I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, who is LineZero? We're an employee experience partner, and we work hand in hand with top-tier SaaS organizations to deploy technology throughout your organizations and really elevate the employee experience. Real quick question: anybody here familiar with Workplace by Meta or Workplace by Facebook? Couple, got seeing a few hands here. So LineZero used to be the largest global reseller of Workplace. And for those of you who don't know, last year, Mark Zuckerberg and Meta decided to sunset that platform. So all of our, some of the wonderful customers that we get to work with on a daily basis that you're seeing up on the screen there, to say that their business and their day-to-day communications turned on a head last May is a bit of an understatement. And this was a challenge for us. This was a big problem that we had to solve. It was a big challenge, and really it was a great opportunity. And we found an excellent partner in WorkVivo to take all of our customers to. So today we're going to be talking about employee engagement. We're going to be talking about the trends that we're seeing in the labor market. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about WorkVivo and we utilize WorkVivo to cultivate culture and enhance employee engagement and build efficiencies throughout your teams. Before we get into all of that, I want you guys to think about, what is the biggest challenge that's facing your organizations today when it comes to the employee experience? This can be technology-based, this can be people-based, this can be anything, but really want you to think about when your team members and when your employees are coming into your organizations, are they really feeling energized? Are they feeling excited? They feel like they're part of the purpose and part of the mission of what you guys are trying to accomplish on a day-to-day basis. This is something that we always ask our customers when we work with them and when we're starting to deploy this type of technology within their organizations. We want to know what the end goal is. We want to know exactly what they're trying to do within their organization. So think about that as we go throughout the discussion today and as we show you some of the statistics when it comes to the labor markets and what we're seeing today. I'll be honest, this has absolutely nothing to do with my speech today. I just thought it was hilarious because we constantly see this throughout LinkedIn, and as an organization that deploys AI and helps people engage it throughout their organizations, I thought it's so true. We just see this constantly coming up on the day-to-day. And in the spirit of fun, I want to ask you guys, I'm going to break the cardinal rule of presentations here and ask you all to pull out your phones. And we're going to go through a little bit of an exercise here where I really want to hear from you, and I want to hear from everyone in the room, where they're engaging, what the problems they're facing are, and opportunities that we can start to dive into. So I'll give you a quick second there to scan the QR code, and I will launch this poll. Seeing some people there. All right. It's working. We're going to take a second to work. All right, I've got some people who are engaging in the poll right now. It's not coming up on screen, so I'll give it one quick second there. But the first question is, if you had a superpower, what would it be? And we're seeing 51% of the people in the room are saying mind reading, and that is pretty on par for people who are in HR and talent management. So that's good to see. All right, we're going to go forward on the next question here. What's your favorite way to eat pizza? I want to see what everybody's going to be saying to this. As somebody who is Italian, I will be judging these. Your options are folded in half with a knife and fork. I'm really glad nobody's saying crust first. That's always. All right, 72% of you guys are normal. You're going to eat pizza just normal. So that's great to see. All right, the next one is time travel. If you go to one point in time, where would it be? Future, past, stay in the present, another dimension. All right, we've got 50% saying past, 25% in the future, 11% saying in the present, 15 into another dimension. Interesting. I want to talk to the 15% who are saying another dimension after this. Awesome, fantastic. We're going to get into some more employee engagement style questions. So what is one word that we use to describe the main employee experience challenge within your organization right now? Seeing burnout, consistency, technology is a challenge, burnout, technology, training. And just so you know what I'm seeing on my screen right now, the largest word is the most common, and burnout is basically covering the entire screen right now. So we're all seeing burnout as being one of the number one issues. Communication. All right, we're seeing a lot of the same stuff here. This is fantastic. We're going to move on to the next one, and I want to hear what the top 3 tools you guys are using to address this challenge. We're seeing surveys, teams, email, engagement, email. Email is one of the number one issues we're seeing right now when it comes to engagement. Surveys, email again. Fantastic. All right, we're going to jump to the very last question, and is if there was a genie in front of you right now, what is the number one thing that you would wish for to elevate your employee experience? Joy. Technology, resources, leaders. Interesting. Leadership. Money, budget. I always see this one on the third question. It always comes down to the dollar figure, right? Leadership, money, budget. Amazing. Awesome. Leadership, money, and budget are the top 3 that we're seeing, and budget just continues to get bigger as we continue to talk about this. So we get the picture here, but thank you guys very much for indulging me on that. I'm just going to jump right back to our presentation here. Hopefully this works. But so let's just kind of summarize what we talked about there. We talked about ways that we're engaging with our employees today, and we talked about what are the number one challenges we're facing. So we're seeing challenges with leadership, we're seeing challenges with budget, we're seeing challenges with communication, and really what we want to start looking at. Do you guys want to flip to the presentation instead? Apologies for the technical difficulties here, guys. Okay. That works if you want to do that. Okay. Brief momentary lapse in technical difficulties. For a technology company, this usually doesn't happen to us. So it's always fun. But basically what we're going to continue to talk about, and as we're continuing to pull up the slides here, what I really want to hone in on is some of the statistics that we are seeing when it comes to employee engagement. We're seeing in a number of different, whether it's Gallup, whether it's Forrester's, whether it's McKinsey, any of these consulting organizations or data organizations, we're seeing 80% of organizations seeing that their employees feel lonely. 60% are burnt out. One of the biggest issues that we just went over in the room was burnout. We're all seeing burnout, we're seeing loneliness. And these are statistics that we really can't ignore anymore. We really cannot sit there and look at these, the data that's coming in when it comes to our employees and say that it's okay that 80% of our employees are lonely, that it's okay that 60% of them are burnt out. And they don't feel engaged, they don't feel empowered, they don't feel inspired to work on the day-to-day tasks that they are seeing and be part of the organization's culture. So what we do as an organization is we go ahead and we address these problems with our clients on a day-to-day and weekly basis. And we do it through technology. I was really hoping that that was going to be like the transition. I have so much good stuff to show you guys too. This is the unfortunate part. I'll keep going here throughout as we're continuing to focus on getting the tech stuff figured out. I promise we did do a dry run too. That's the only other unfortunate thing. But when it comes to technology, when it comes to culture, when it comes to engaging our employees, one of the biggest ways that we do that is through the WorkVivo platform. When we start from day one of, and no pun intended, but when we start from day one with organizations that we do work with, one of the biggest things that we see is, and we ask about, is where we would benchmark their engagement levels, where we would benchmark their burnout levels, and where we would benchmark engagement. And with that, we then start to track from when we start launching all of these technologies. So one of the organizations that we do work with had about a 25% engagement rate. And we do this through all the surveys and scores that we put forward. We launched WorkVivo with them, and we saw a massive spike in engagement and encouragement within their organization to this tune of 78%. So we saw a swing from 1 in 4 employees being engaged within their organization all the way up to 3 out of 4. And that was within a 3-month span of just deploying the technology, which is something that we don't usually see in that time span. So it was something that was really encouraging for us. The other thing as well that's really interesting when we start looking at cultures and we start looking at the way that we're engaging with our cultures is the medium in which we do so. So we all just talked about, what is the number one platform that we're currently using? Email. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like email is starting to get a little bit full. The inbox is starting to get pretty full. And those HR or comms communications that we want to make sure that we're engaging with usually fall into the bottom of the priority list on that email. So as we move into this new culture, we move into this new mode of our ways that we communicate with, in our day-to-day lives, whether it's through social media, whether it's through other mediums, engaging with our employees in a medium that they are comfortable with and in a medium that is actually going to move forward is one of the things that we really want to do. And we can do that through this platform. So that's the other thing that I really want to make sure that we hone in on throughout this discussion here is making sure that we are communicating where our employees are as opposed to where we want them to be. We find disjointed communications. I don't know about you guys and how your organizations operate, but we see a lot of organizations with large tech stacks. Those tech stacks lead to multiple applications on your phone. They lead to communications being in multiple different spots. And what platforms like WorkVivo do is they centralize everything. So they bring everything together into one, as opposed to having 5 different types of communications in different places. You've got a single source for internal communications, your HR hub, and it's all underpinned by analytics. So as communicators, as HR leaders, one of the most important things that we usually have to show, especially to senior management when we're asking for something to put budget towards, we have to make sure that it's actually effective. So WorkVivo, being underpinned by deep analytics and employee insights, allows you to show what types of communications your employees are engaging with. It allows you to dive into where they want to see communications. We have an organization that has a fantastic senior leadership team, and they have a weekly podcast that they do for their organization. It gets almost 100% in terms of viewership, in terms of engagement, and it allows the organization to actually humanize the people who are at their senior leadership, as opposed to them just sending out a big email or them doing a town hall and having that kind of position of power. They get to have more of a human connection with the people that they actually work with and the people they report into. It's so important. It's so important to have that level of analytics and really engage with your employees where they want to be engaged with. It allows you to really clearly develop that strategy and then push it out throughout the organization. One of the charts that was my favorite that I was going to show you guys was a talk that Simon Sinek did. And he did this talk and he was explaining when he worked with the Navy SEALs. And I find this story so relevant. And what he asked, this is the top elite of the elite task force on the planet. He said, how do you guys decide who you select to be on your teams? How do you select who is going to go and be in these high pressure, highly effective situations? And the commander that he was speaking with drew a chart. And on the y-axis, it was performance. And on the x-axis, it was trust. And he said, obviously, in this top right quadrant of high trust and high performance, that's a unicorn. That's everybody wants that employee. Everybody wants to make sure that employee is in their organization. They're hard to find, though. Obviously, low trust, low performance, that's not somebody you want in your organization. But the interesting thing, and the reason why I'm bringing this up, is that the commander said that a high performance, low trust individual is a toxic team member. That's not somebody that we want in our organization. That's not somebody that we want on our teams. And they would sooner select somebody who is in a low performance, high trust category over this person who is high performance, low trust. And I found that really interesting. So that's a matrix that they're using to decide whether or not they're going to put somebody in life or death situations. So what we usually ask the clients that we work with is we say, whatever matrix you're using, you can use this 6x6 box here if you want, or take whatever matrix you use on how you select your employees and flip it on yourselves. Flip it on your organization. How are you selecting employees, and would the employees you currently have put your organization into one of these 6 boxes, and what box would they select? I find that always interesting to ask organizations, especially when we start working with them. And the reason I find that interesting is because if you feel like your employees who are in that high trust category, those ones who you want to be the culture champions for your organization, the ones that you really want to push forward, the ones you want to retain, where would they put your organization? Would they put you in that same high trust category? Because if they are in that high trust category, you're great. You're going to retain them. But if they're not, you're going to lose top talent. One of the CPOs that we work with, we were walking through this matrix, and I asked her, I said, you've worked at a number of organizations before. Explain to me the difference between organizations that invest in the employee experience and the ones that don't, and what is the difference? And we were talking about this matrix, and we were talking about high trust and high performance and where we want employees. And she said, the interesting thing to me is when we invest in the employee experience, this high trust category here, those are entrepreneurs, most likely. They have that entrepreneurial spirit. When we look at those people, and we look at people who have that entrepreneurial spirit, it's so ingrained into the American economy that we encourage it. We want to encourage entrepreneurship. But she said, we want to develop entrepreneurs. And when we invest in the employee experience and we look at that high trust category, we look at people who are potentially leaving, starting their own business. We want to build them into entrepreneurs within the organization. And those entrepreneurs, And those entrepreneurs stayed within the organizations when they actually invested in the employee experience. And for everything that I am talking about, this is the chart I'm talking about. So this section here, right here, high trust. Think about where you're putting your employees in that. That's where we want to really focus in on. I got 5 minutes left, and I'm going to really go through these slides now. I'm going to jump back really quickly here to the challenge and opportunity that we're all actually facing. Right now, Gallup estimates that 1 in 4 employees aren't actually engaged within their current workforce. That's $8.9 trillion of opportunity there. That's $8.9 trillion of opportunity cost for not investing in the employee experience. That's 10% of the global economy today. And what they found was when we do invest in the employee experience, we're seeing 43% less turnover. We're seeing 81% less absenteeism and a 20% higher productivity rate. So you can take those statistics in. These as well that I already mentioned on what we're seeing when it comes to loneliness, when it comes to burnout. These are the statistics that we're seeing. And these are all retroactive, right? All of those statistics are retroactive. So as we look back at all the information we've seen over the last few years, and we think about what we went through in 2022 with the Great Resignation, where we saw boomers taking early retirement, we saw millennials taking, switching over jobs. We need to look at that and extrapolate that for what's going to happen in the future and where we're at. So if we look back and we think about the Great Resignation, we think about what actually happened. We saw 43% of the turnover in the millennial age bracket being high performers. So as we look back at trust, we look back at what we just talked about there, those high performers, the people that you want to keep within your organizations, those are the people that we need to start building into culture champions within our organization. As we invest in that employee experience, that's really where we need to hone in on. And if we look at 2022 and we look at where we're at today, millennials on average turnover within their organizations or within the labor market on an average of 2 to 3 years. So we look back at the Great Resignation, we look at where we're at today, and we're potentially on the precipice of something actually happening in a very similar fashion. I'm going to jump forward here. I really honed in on WorkVivo and how it builds a culture of communications. This is where we're at today with most organizations, and as we just saw in the poll that we did at the start, where we have disjointed communications, we're all still in that email realm. And we want to move forward. We want to move forward to a more centralized hub of communication. We really want to bring everything together from our productivity suites to our HR suites and have a one-stop shop for everything within our organizations. This is what we used to have. We used to have legacy comms, where it's top-down. It's great to show hierarchy. It really builds, the structure of what you're wanting to see within your organizations, but it's not encouraging. It doesn't lead to value. It doesn't make employees feel heard. It doesn't lead to collaboration. One of my favorite stories on this piece here, when it comes to open communication, one of the logistics companies that we work with, they had 20,000 employees. They launched WorkVivo. And when they did so, they really wanted to engage with the front line. They wanted to understand, what is it that you guys are seeing that we need to start looking at from an efficiency standpoint, from optimizing our business process here. And the VP of operations, he did a number of different surveys, a number of different polls throughout. And one of the plant managers who was managing a distribution facility had this great idea on a different way to pack pallets. And he's a very tenured, very senior employee at the plant. And he had this great idea, and it led to tens of millions of dollars in cost savings. And the VP of operations goes down to the plant. He goes, Steve, why didn't you tell us about this years ago? Why is it just this now we're coming out? He goes, I did. I told Bill. I told my manager. So, okay, he goes over to Bill. Bill, why didn't you bring this to my desk? This is big for us. We can now pack pallets. We're going to have millions of dollars in savings. Why is it now that we're figuring this out? He goes, yeah, I told Steve. Goes to Steve. I asked Steve, why didn't we bring this up? He goes, yeah, I sent you an email on that. Don't worry. We did that. We communicated it, but we communicated through email and you didn't see it. So now we have this ability to actually have centralized communications, actually hear from frontline employees and make them feel empowered to bring new effective operations to our organization. And that's what this platform does. It connects internal communications, it connects your digital workspace, and it allows employees to engage, be heard, and drive collaboration. And it's all underpinned, as I mentioned, by deep analytics and learning. And the way we can use that to build our decisions, to build our communication strategies is really something that we can't ignore anymore. When you see statistics like 80% are feeling lonely, 60% are burnt out, we need to find new ways to communicate with our employees. And this right here is the way to do so. So I want to thank you all so much for listening to the presentation today. I apologize for the technical difficulties, and I would love to talk further with you guys. We've got a booth out there in the front room. So thank you guys very much. Really appreciate it. We're going to talk about